We're learning the Sikha on Chodesh Sivan in Chelek Chavches on page 7. The shir today is being learned L'Nishmas Rabbi Yosef ben Yamin ben Rabbi Menashe Koltman. Ba'chodesh hashlishi geimer b'yom hazeh bo midbar Sinai v'yichan sham Yisrael neged ahar. On the third month, on this day, the Yidden arrived at Midbar Sinai and they camped there together across the mountain. Zogen Chazal, so the Gemara tells us, as Bayom Hazeh meant dem Tag von Rosh Chodesh. Bayom Hazeh means that it was the first day of the month, Rosh Chodesh Sivan. As in dem Tag von Rosh Chodesh Sivan, Chodesh Hashlishi, sind Yidden angekommen zu Har Sinai. It was this day on Rosh Chodesh Sivan that Yidden arrived to Midbar Sinai, but also Har Sinai, right across of the mountain where the Torah will be given. Now, das allein, was die Yidden sind zugekommen zum Har Sinai, this itself, the Yidden arrived and camped right at the mountain, noch Eide hat sie dort gegeben die Torah, even before the Torah was given to them. Is schon a Meile nefla b'yoser, is already a very great thing and a very high level. Wie man sagt in der Agada, and as we see this from what we say in the Agada, if Hashem would bring us close to be at the mountain at Har Sinai, and He did not give us the Torah, that is enough. But the Etzem gefinnen sich, neged ahar, hat bei den Yidden nicht getan an Ili Nifla. What's so great about the fact that they arrived there? Because the very fact that they came and they camped across the mountain elevated Yidden to a very great level. Wie Chazal sagen auf dem Pasuk Vayichan Sham Yisrael, as the Gemara Darshans or the Medrash Darshans, on the words Vayichan Sham Yisrael, that Yidden camped, and it's said in a singular term, Ki ish echad belev echad, like one man with one heart. Al Yidei Zeh, was Yidden am Chayne gewesen, neged ahar, when Yidden camped there across the mountain, zene ze geworden ba'achdus gemura ki ish echad belev echad. They became unified as one unit, like one person, with one heart. So here we find something which is a big wonder, very difficult to understand regarding this day, Chodesh Sivan. The Gemara rechnet uns bepratius, wie Moshe Rabbeinu hat zugegreit, die Yidden zu Kabbalah Satire, bemeshech die Tag, von sehr ankommen zu Har Sinai bis im Tag von Matan Torah. The Gemara tells us in detail all of the steps of the preparations that Moshe Rabbeinu prepared Yidden to receive the Torah from the day that they arrived to Har Sinai until the day that we received the Torah. And it says as follows, Beis Sivan, on the second day of Sivan, Amaluhu, he said to the Yidden, Vatem Tili Mamlechas Kaina, that Yidden will be a nation of kingdom or of priests. Gimel Sivan, the next day, Mitzvah Hagbala. They received the mitzvah to limit the mountain, not to go onto the mountain. Dalit Sivan, the next day, on the fourth of Sivan, the Tzivya of Perisha, the mitzvah to separate from one's wife. And Hey Sivan is given Bana Mizbeach v'Hikreval of carbon. On the fifth of Sivan, they built a Mizbeach and they brought a carbon. Va'ad, and concluding on that day, La Miras Nasiv and Ishmael they call Yisrael, when all Yidden proclaimed that we will do and we will listen, which is the great dedication that Yidden accepted the Torah. Masha'enke, but Rosh Chodesh Sivan, however, on Rosh Chodesh Sivan itself, that Tag, when sie angekommen zum Har Sinai, the day that they arrived at Har Sinai, sagt the Gemara le'amalu v'le'midi mishum cholshe de'orche, that Moshe Rabbeinu did not say to Yidden anything to prepare them for Matan Torah because they were weak, they were exhausted of the way. Since Yidden were weak from their travel, hat Moshe abgewart mit der Achanis Kabbalah Satire bis dem Yom Shel Achri Zeh Beis Sivan. So Moshe Rabbeinu waited to prepare them to receive the Torah to the following day on Beis Sivan. In Flog is this Bechlal nicht verstandig. So looking at this simply, it's very difficult to understand. Says Yedua was Chazal Zagen. It's well known what it says that as Areis Geindik from Mitzrayim is by Yidden given a gewaldige Tshuka zu Kabbalah Satira. Leaving Mitzrayim, Yidden had a tremendous yearning to receive the Torah. Bis, as sie haben gezählt, die verbliebene Tag bis Matan Torah. To the point that Yidden were counting the remaining days until they will receive the Torah. So if so, it's simply understood. As was Nentes is geworden dem Tag from Kabbalah Satira, the closer they get to the day that they will receive the Torah, als größer is bei sie geworden oti stoikikus. So this yearning to receive the Torah was only intensified. Halachas kama v'kama, definitely, kumendik zum Har Sinai. When they actually arrived at the mountain Har Sinai, where Hashem is going to give the Torah, dem Ort, wo es wird gegeben werden, die Torah, hat das Avade und Avade herausgerufen bei Jiden, die starkste Gefühle von Schukke und Zepie zu Kabbalas HaTorah. So this definitely inspired Yidden, and it brought out in them the strongest feelings of yearning and desire and waiting for the moment that they'll receive the Torah. So now we see in the nature of people, as b'shas mensch hat starke gaguim zur Sach, when someone has a very strong yearning and desire for something, is bei ihm demelt nicht teufes Mokim, die Vermattetkeit von sein Guff. So it doesn't matter how exhausted he may be, it doesn't matter. As das soll ihn abhalten, in sein Bemühung zu kriegen die Sache, that this would stop him or prevent him in his efforts to get what he's waiting for so eagerly. Und befragt, wenn halt schon non zum bekommen das, zu was sich mistake, and especially when he's very close, when he's right at the finish line to receive what he's waiting for so long, fehlt sicher nicht dann die Vermattetkeit von Guf. So definitely then, the person will not at all pay attention and won't even feel at all the exhaustion that he may have physically. It's tamua, so here it's very difficult to understand. Yidden come here and they're camping right across the mountain. Nach die alle Wochen und Tag von Gagoim to Kabbalas HaTorah. After the weeks and days that Yidden are waiting this moment to receive Torah. Soll sich Moshe Rabbeinu abhalten vom zu Meichen sein, die Yidden, so Moshe Rabbeinu stops and does not continue and move up the process to prepare Yidden for the Torah, to Kabbalas HaTorah, Salib, Chul Shadorcha. Because the Yidden are not ready, they're exhausted, they need a rest. Und noch mehr, wie Chazal seine Medayik, furthermore, as we see clearly in the words that Chazal say here, Loi Amma Lohu V'loi Midi. He did not even say one word to them. Hat sie kein ein Wort nicht gesagt in dem Allem. Achane zu Kabbalas HaTorah. Not that he said something lighter or something less, but nothing. It was a complete stop in the moving forward to receive the Torah. Euch mit Sad Yidden, the question is also on behalf of the Yidden, wie kommt es, als Masken gewähnt, zu abruhen sich und nicht gemont bei Moshe, als soll sie losen, Herren, Epis, was lochalapach ist, Epis was lochalapach ist, wegen Kabbalas HaTorah. How did Yidden accept this? And they didn't demand to hear something. What's the next step that we're doing to receive the Torah? Befrat, and the question is especially a strong question, as da is nicht gewähnt kein größe Tirche Dorche, was soll geirem sein, as a größe Chalisches. We're not talking about a very difficult road trip that would cause them to be so exhausted. Warum? Because Aleph, number one, von Refidim bis Har Sinai is nicht kein größe Merchak. From the place that we were earlier, by Refidim, to travel to Har Sinai, it's not a great distance. Beis, the etzem gain, is not given verbunden mit kein Tirche Yisera. The very traveling itself was not something that was difficult the way it is with usual travel when you're going in all types of terrains and it can be difficult. Warum? Der Anana Kovid ist doch gegangen vor uns. The cloud of glory went ahead of Yidden und kol hanomoch magbiyoi. If there was a valley, so it lifted it up. V'chol hagavoya, and if there's a mountain, mashpiloi, it brought it down. And the Azoyas is given alicha b'derech misha. They traveled in a straight, flat land, which makes the travel much easier. And Gimel, the third point about the travel, Rosh Chodesh Sivan is given b'yom Rishon, other b'yom Beis. Rosh Chodesh Sivan was on a Sunday or possibly a Monday. B'smiches l'menucha shleima from Shabbos, right after their full and complete rest on the day before on Shabbos. So how exhausted could Yidden be that they can't even hear one word in preparing them for Kabbalas HaTorah? Is doch noch mehr Tamua, for was is bei Yidden given as a größe Chalishes, as lieb dem, sollen sie nicht sein, Mesugel zu kennen, Herren, afile ein Wort, will midi wegen Kabbalas HaTorah. After this short road trip, an easy road trip, they're not ready to hear anything to continue, to prepare for Matan Torah. So the explanation for this we can say is as follows. Mit Chulshe de Orche, meine Chazal, in this expression that they were weak and exhausted of traveling, what Chazal are really referring to is not so much the physical weakness from the Gashmis, the Galiche Bederech of their physical travel, nor be'iker the Chalische Ruchnis, mitzad the Ruchnis, the Galiche Bederech, was Yidden Davon durchgemacht. Rather, it's referring primarily to the spiritual level of travel, that Yidden travel then in a Ruchnis the Gederech, that, as will be explained there, what way the Yidden traveled. Punkt visis faran, halicha gashmi is bederach mimokim lamokim gashmi. Just as there is traveling physically from one location to another. Azay is faran, der inyan von halicha ruchnis bederach haruchnis. So too, there's the concept of one that travels and moves from one location to another spiritually. Der Adam geht von ein matzev mokim beruchnis to a zweite matzev mokim beruchnis. When one travels from one situation and from one condition spiritually to another, a new place and a new condition spiritually. Ba'aliyah or the biyiride could be going up a level or coming down, or the b'shini to an ander inyan, or changing from one concept or one inyan spiritually that a person is involved into something else. Und das kezayin b'midas shebelev ave v'yirachulu. This travel could be an emotional trip, b'seichel, or it could be intellectual shebemayach in one's mind. Havanasa b'seichel v'chulu, a whole new level of understanding. Other Ifanim v'dargas b'avedas Hashem, or other levels that a person travels and comes to in his serving Hashem. Das alles is aliche b'derech beruchnius. This is all the various different possibilities of a person that's traveling on his way and getting elevated spiritually. So, looking over here, what Yidden traveled, beruchnius. The Masois, was Yidden sind gegangen von Mitzrayim bis Har Sinai, sind gewähnt nicht nur a haliche Gashmis. When Yidden traveled out of Mitzrayim, and finally they arrived at Har Sinai, is not only a physical trip, but also and primarily a spiritual way that they're traveling. A big change in their spiritual state and a great elevation in their level of serving Hashem. Und werden als mehr Nenter und mehr Roi zu Kabbalah Satira, constantly progressing and getting closer and more deserving to receive the Torah. Wie steht in Sfarim, and as this is explained in Sfarim, Azayinige Mitzrayim sind Yidden gewinnt Shkuim im Mente Shari Tumme. When Yidden were in Mitzrayim, they were immersed in 49 gates of impurity. Und jeden Tag is given a Sphire va'aliyah von die Sha'arim. And every day, counting to receive the Torah, they counted and they got elevated out of one of those gates, one of those places of impurity. Biz noch memtes aliyas sind sie nis'ale geworden legamri. And after 49 levels that they traveled higher and higher, they became totally elevated to Zayin, am Mamlechas Kainim v'Goy Kodesh b'Matan Torah. To be on the level, to be the nation of kingly priests and a holy nation to receive the Torah. Di ala masois, aliyas, and Avodas Hashem, all of these places that Yidden traveled and were elevated in serving Hashem, zena gewen an Reifim Mesuder. It was from level by level, an aliyah medarge ledarge. Aber the aliyah by dem masse von Refidim zu Har Sinai, when it comes to this last place that Yidden are traveling, from Refidim to Har Sinai, is gewen ba'ofen shel shinui ikri. Here, the Yidden got elevated to a new level, which is changing them fundamentally. Sie haben durchgemacht am Mercha Godel, beruchnius. Here, they're traveling a far distance, spiritually speaking, und es alle geworden be'ein aroich zu the aliches va'aliyas von the tek fardem. And Yidden are growing and coming to a new level, completely different than the slow and gradual stage of movement and growth that they experienced previously. So it's move on if so it's understood as das is verbunden mit groß tirche wie yegie ba'avedas Hashem. So this, to jump to such a level, completely not associated to where they were before, such a great change fundamentally that happened when they arrived to Har Sinai, this is something that spiritually is something that causes a great exhaustion and involvement to come to this level. That's unique. What's unique here about the traveling. It's not so much the physical traveling, as the Rabbi pointed out. It wasn't such a difficult road to travel on, but it's the spiritual level that they came to that was a great jump. Now, the Ausgeteiltkeit von dem Masse, what was unique, what we see unique here about this journey that Yidden traveled to Har Sinai, Gibn Ares Chazal, it's expressed in what Chazal tell us, B'mamara Manalif and Pasuk Vayichan Sham Yisrael, in what Chazal tell us that they all camped there as one unit, Ki'ish Echad, Belev Echad, as one man, with one heart, Avo, Shar, Kolachanoyos, Betarunais of Machlekes. All of the times where Yidden camped, it was with arguments and with fighting. So what does this mean? Does it literally mean that whenever Yidden camped, there was always fighting in the simple sense? By Shar Kolachanoyos and Geven Tarumis Machlekes, In other places where Yidden camped, there was arguments and fights. Und dafke bei der Chanoye neged the Har sind die Yidden gestanden in Anachtus Gemura ki ish echad belev echad. Here, when they camped across the mountain, it was an absolute unity as one man with one heart. Yesh loymar, so we can say what this means is as follows. The Pirush from Shar Kol HaChanoyes b'tarumais ub'machleikis. The idea that they always camped with arguments and division amongst them is nit chas v'shalom in Pashat Zin. It doesn't mean, God forbid, in the literal sense, as by alle Chanoyes is by Zegeven Machleikis, in Yonim Gashmi v'chayetze b'zeh, that they were arguing and quarreling over physical matters amongst them. We're talking about this, that Yidden have arguments in spiritual matters, in godly matters. Because the nature that Hashem has granted and created people with is in ein the same Shabbos. People don't have the same approach and opinion on things. Und noch mehr, in Torah Atzma, zene faran deis chalukas. In Torah itself, there are various opinions. Und noch mehr, loy nit nu divrei Torah chatuchen. The Torah was not given to Yidden to be cut, meaning that this is what it is, without one or two or three or more approaches. Ela kol dava cholu, mem tespanim toir, or mem tespanim tome. Everything in Torah has 49 ways to look at it to say that it's pure, and another 49 ways to look at it to say that it's impure. And ve'elu divrei Elokim chayim. And all of these opinions in understanding this subject, even in Torah itself, according to the rules of Torah, are all the word of Hashem. Is al pizeh muvan as mitzad hateva de kedusha v'seder anyanim beruchnius, that even looking at things from the perspective of nature, but nature within holiness, and the way things are spiritually, zen shar kol hachanoye is given mit machlekes l'shem shemayim. Whenever Yidden traveled, naturally there were differences of opinion in how they approached their learning in Torah and all the matters of Tummy and Torah and so on, which is all for the sake of heaven. That's the natural existence of Klal Yisrael wherever they were until this point. But now, when Yidden come and they arrive across the mountain where Hashem gives the Torah, here there was a fundamental novelty that happens that's supernatural. As es in bei Yisei bottle geworden alle chilukei. All differences of opinions were gone. Und sie sind es achad geworden ki ish echad und noch mehr belev echad. They were unified as one man, and even more so with one heart. Nit nur ki ish echad mit an achtus, was any bosse zen as alle ki ish echad, zen sie alle ki ish echad b'negei la'asiyah v'chulu. The word ki ish echad means externally, that you look at their behavior and you see that they're all behaving the same way. As all Yidden sind maskem umachlit ba'achlota achas b'negei la'asiyah v'chulu b'poyel, that they all make a decision that we're going to collaborate and we're going to work together in practice, in their behavior. But furthermore, internally, in their feeling, in their heart, and achtas gemura, that even their feeling in their heart, they all had the exact same feeling in their preparing for Matan Torah. That's something which is supernatural. And this is the Chodesh when they arrived at this place. So we'll move on if so it's understood. As a große Tirche, Hishtadlos, Viegi, Ruchnis, zu der Griechen not the Achtos, that this hard work and effort that they invested to travel and come to this level of this absolute unity, was Zagor, Vaite Mahalach Beruchnis, this is a great distance to reach in spiritually, to get rid of any iota, any drop of a difference of opinion. Any argument that could be, even for the sake of heaven, and even just a difference of opinion that is not even being voiced externally, but even just something in the heart. It's this that must have caused the Yidden to be extremely exhausted. That's the main point that Chazal are referring to when they say that on this day Moshe Rabbeinu did not say anything to them to take them to the next step, to prepare for Matan Torah, because of the great Aveda that Eden reached and accomplished on this day when they arrived to Har Sinai. This is one explanation for this lashon of Chazal, Mishum Cholshu de'orcha le'amalu v'lei midi. Atif v'rebir yeshleimer, and then a deeper explanation for what Chazal is saying here, we can say as follows. Cholshu de'orcha, when it says that they were weak from the traveling, is nitten not an inyan from chesaron. it's not only saying something that they were weak and they were lacking. As mitzad the chalishus in Yidden, haben sie sich nicht gekannt vernehmen mit der Achanas und Kabbalas HaTorah. Because of their weakness, they had to take a break and they couldn't continue preparing to receive the Torah. Nor be'inyan noizeh, over here in this case, adarabah. The opposite is true. Chulshe de orche, this condition of Yidden being weakened in their travel, da is a maile va'aliyah b'matzavim shel Yisrael. This actually is referring to a great level that the Yidden are coming to in their condition. V'yeshleima b'derech efshe, and it could even be said furthermore, as he is hecher euch von die spätige inyane achane von die yamim shel achrizeh, that this level of chulshe de orche, as will be explained, is such a great level of preparation for Matan Torah that this is even greater than all the other steps and levels that Yidden prepared in the following days. So what is this all about? What is this great level of chulshe de orche? Seemingly it's just something negative. So to explain this with the following introduction. Es das ein l'shayer dem richel ke'erech zwischen Moshe Rabbeinu und dem Poshet shebepshutim sheb'Yisrael. We have no idea how to estimate to what degree the distance is from Moshe Rabbeinu and the simplest amongst Jews. Und da sagt man, Vayichan Sham Yisrael. And here we say that all Yidden camped together as one, as alle Yidden from Moshe Rabbeinu bis a Poshet shebepshutim. All Yidden from the greatest Moshe Rabbeinu to the simplest of Yidden, are unified with a complete and absolute unity, with one heart. And obviously we're not talking about something that was done just externally, like something which is done by habit, God forbid. But this is a real and true, genuine unity. Is the fun move on, if so it's understood from this, as by Yidden is faran and a Chodesh believe that by every Jew there is that pintele, that point in his heart, and velach has gleichen zechais, ki ish echad, believe echad, dem gadol shebegdailim mit den pashat shebepshutim. We're there in that place, in that point, in the heart of a Yid, so the greatest and the simplest are actually one and the same. Und in them is bastan in the reiftu from Vayichan Sham Yisrael neged ahar. And this is the accomplishment of what happened on this day when Yidden camped as one entity across the mountain. Steindig neged ahar. Oif zu sein kibbel Torah misinai. Being there in this place, right across the mountain where Yidden will receive the Torah, is by Zayn is gale geworden die nekude shebelev was gleich ze ois alle v'yene. That point in their heart where there all Yidden are actually one. In them besteht the ikar achana to Kabbalas HaTorah. And it's this point, that nekuda of Yidden that's revealed, that is the main preparation for Kabbalas HaTorah to receive the Torah, and as Rabbi mentioned before, in a way even more than the other details that followed in the following days. Das Barid in them, so to explain what this preparation for Matan Torah is, when Shingaret kam upon him, wegen dem Chiddush bei und von Matan Torah. It was already spoken about more than once, what was the novelty that happened at and from Matan Torah, that Yidden received the Torah on this day. The L'chayre, because seemingly limud Torah is doch gewen euch in the friedige days, far Matan Torah. Learning Torah, that existed even in generations before. Oladugma, for example, Yeshiva Shem ve'ever, the Yeshiva of Shem and Ever, the Avis Shalom, the Kol HaTorah Kula Achalei Nitna, Valderach Zeb Bnei Machreim, the Avis, and their children, their descendants, also learned Torah, Lefnei Matan Torah Biz, as Lepaska Yeshiva, Ma'aviseinu b'Mitzrayim. The Gemara says that the entire time they Yidden were in Mitzrayim, they always had a yeshiva where they learned Torah. Was besteht the Chiddush b'Matan Torah? So what's the great novelty of Hashem coming to Yidden and giving them the Torah? And what was explained about this is, as der Oiftu, besteht in them, was damals is given Matan Torah. What was accomplished and what's new here is that Hashem now, for the first time, is giving Yidden the Torah. Nasan lanu es Teirasei, as we say in the bracha that Hashem gives us His Torah. He is gegeben geworden von dem Neisen Torah. Hashem Himself, the giver of the Torah, He's giving us the Torah, which means as follows: Lefnei Matan Torah hat man genommen Torah. Before Matan Torah, the Yidden took whatever they were able to access and reach in the Torah. Mit und leit dem eigenem koyach haseichel v'habittel. Using the power that they had on their own, whether using the koyach of their intellectual and power they had, or even bittul, or a level of dedication that is possible for a human being in this world to connect the Torah. Shas Matan Teire hat Rebbe gegeben, Teire litten auf dem V'koyach an Sinne Shaloi. However, at Matan Teire, when the Eibishter gives, he gives the Teire only like the Eibishter himself could give the Teire fully. But Matan Teire is given, Vayedaber Lekim, as kol advarim ha'ele leimer. Leimer than Vayedaber Lekim. That Hashem gives the Teire, and he is giving himself. Hashem leimer means that Hashem is giving this itself, that you don't now have only the Teire, but you have the Teire which Hashem is speaking to you. That aspect of Teire, that essence of Teire, Yidden did not reach and have before. Al derech zeh, dernoch, and similar, following this, at Moshe Rabbeinu bahar gelernt kol ha-Teire kulo mipi hagvura v'nit nachulo. Moshe Rabbeinu went up to the mountain for 40 days and learned the Teire directly from Hashem himself. Und das ist given nit an ein malike zach. This is not a one-time thing that Yidden received the Teire then from Hashem that gave it to them. Nor beim Geben the Teire hat der Eibishter Kaviyachol sich hereingegeben in the Teire. When Hashem gives Yidden the Teire, Hashem invested himself in the Teire that Yidden learn. This is one of the interpretations that is said about what Chazal say, that Hashem says that I have written myself and granted and given myself into the Teire. A Yid that learns Teire, in whatever time period it may be, first, one must say and make the bracha, Nosan lonu is teirasei, that Hashem gave us His Teire, and oisi atam loikchem. When you learn Teire, it's not just the level of Teire that's accessible through logic or through dedication of a human being, but you have Hashem Himself, and the way He gives Himself into the Teire, in the Teire that one learns. This is the Chodesh from Matan Teire. And this is the Chodesh from Aton Egleise Chulu from Matan Teire. This is the novelty of Hashem appearing and revealing Himself to us. This is the Lashon of the Nusach that we say in Shofris, in Musaf of Rosh Hashanah, that happened at Matan Teire. Es ist nicht nur zugekommen als Sofe v'aliyah legabe lifnei Teire, Matan Teire. This is not just another addition or another level in comparison to before they received the Teire. This is something completely new, totally unassociated with any level that was before. Because lifnei Matan Teire, then limit that Teire is given mitzad an eigenem koyach ha-seichel v'chulu. Before Matan Teire, when one learns with the power of his own intellect, is move on, it's understood as mat genommen von Teire, not as they feel, so what do you take? What do you access in the Teire? Whatever it's possible for a human being and his learning with his intellect to take from the Chachma of Hashem. Mashenke noch Matan Teire is the limit of Teire behoifen as me verbindt sich durch dem mit dem Neisen a Teire atzmai. After Matan Teire, when one learns Teire, he connects to the giver of the Teire himself. Was hat allein sich hereingegeben b'Teirasei. Since Hashem placed Himself, His essence, into the Teire, so here you have Hashem Himself in the Teire that you learn. So that's Shalei Be'erech Klal. That's a completely new level of learning Teire. Und das ist verbunden mit Vayicha Sham Yisrael ki ish echad b'leiv echad. This Chiddush of Matan Teire is expressed in this that Eden camped at Har Sinai as one man with one heart. Because die Chiblukim bei Limudat Teire zwischen ein Yid mit der zweiten Yiden, the difference is that we find in the levels of learning between one Yid and another, bis zum Chiluk Achi Gadol zwischen Moshe Rabbeinu and Pasha Shebepshutim, to the greatest extent of a separation that there is between Moshe Rabbeinu's learning and the learning of a simple Jew, Zene Benegeya Hasagas HaTeire, is only regarding how much could one comprehend in Teire. Was eine dort mitzad keiches nafshoi aggressere und a hechere havana vasagim Teire. One Yid with the power of the soul has a greater access and a greater level of understanding in Teire. Wie das hat der zweite Yid, in comparison to another Jew that doesn't understand to this level. Bis a chiluk bein areich, to the point that the distinction between the level of one Yid's learning and another can be completely an infinite separation. Aber however, das was a Yid verbindt sich durch Limud HaTeire, is kul echad mit Neisen HaTeire, the point of learning, when a Yid learns and he connects and he becomes one with the giver of the Teire, is das by the Gadol Shebigdailim and the Kotten Shebiktanim. That point of Hashem, the essence of Hashem, which is in the Teire that one connects to and is learning, that's equal by every Yid. There's the greatest and the smallest. That oisiatem loikchem, this that when one learns you're connecting to Hashem Himself, is by an ish pashut v'sleinet mikra. Even by the simplest Jew that's just learning a pasuk of Chumash. And that includes even if he does not understand what he's learning. Muzer makdim zayin, as v'nasan lanu es teirasai, before he says the pasuk of Chumash, he makes the bracha and says that Hashem gave us His Torah, kanal. Is das derselbe oisi, it's the same oisi, Hashem Himself, was bei dem Lamden, Godel, was hat gar, Tifa, Avone, Vasage, im Teire, und is in dem Mechadish Chedushim Amiti. When one learns with the greatest depth in his learning, and he learns and he's Mechadish with the great novelties in Teire and true Chedushim in Teire, and the point of the Eibishter Himself that's in the Teire, all these levels do not matter. It's all the Eibishter Himself, and it's equal by the greatest and the simplest. Der Eloi von Eisiatem Leichem wird nicht der Greich durch die eigene Keuches. To come to this that you have in the Torah, the Eibishter Himself, that's not something which one could reach with his own power. Now kommt mil Maila, that's a gift from above. Weil Nosan Lanu es Teirasei. At Matan Teira Hashem gave us His Teira. Und der Erinien ist verbunden mit Leiv von Yidden. This is expressed in the Leiv Echad, in the heart of the Jew. Weil in Pnimius unekudas haleiv von Yidden, because inside, in the deepest place, in the heart of the Yid, in the pintele of the heart of a Yid, is Meir Yechidische Benefesh. That's where the level of Yechidah, the deepest level of the soul of the Yid, is revealed. Hechel legamri von seiner Soge v'tam v'das, higher than any level of comprehension, any level of reason or understanding. Was in der Nekuda is by Yidden, is by jeden Yidden seiner Munne in Eibishten l'mayle v'tam v'das. And it's in that point, in that place, where every single Yid has the same level of belief in Hashem beyond any reason or logic. Das meint, vayichan sham Yisrael ki ish echad b'leiv echad. So this is the meaning of what happens that Yidden have such a level of unity as one man with one heart. Komedik neged heart. When Yidden arrive right across the mountain, the place where Hashem will give the Yidden the Torah. Hat das bei Yidden herausgerufen, die Isgalus von sehr Pnimius und Nekudas Aleif. So this brought to the surface that deep point in the heart of a Yid, was is bei all Yidden B'Shavah, that's equal by all Yidden. Und der Gilui an der Kudische Belev hat sie gemacht für Akeli zu der Göttlichkeit von Torah, zum Vayedaber Elekim, bis es wird Lemar. This opened them up to be able to receive the Torah, the godliness that's in the Torah, and the fact that it's the word of Hashem that you have in the Torah. That's the Chiddush that happens, one of the main Chiddush that happens at Matan Torah, the Eibishter's Torah. It's the Göttlichkeit. It's not just a Torah that we learn and access through the keiches that we have as human beings, whether intellect or even dedication with bittul, but it's the gift of Hashem that gives Himself in the Torah to all Yidden equally. However, the Achanu from Vayichan Sham Yisrael B'Leiv Echad is nor the Erste Darge in the Achanu to Matan Torah. This is the fundamental point and the first step in the preparation to receive the Torah. Durch der Meile Nefla from Bittul V'Achtos vet Makeli zu Torah. When you have this great level of absolute self-nullification and unity, now you're a vessel to receive the Torah. However, then comes the second step. The Tachlis from Torah is, what's the purpose of Hashem giving us the Torah as Mezolzi lernen, that you should study it, mit Havana Vasage, to learn and understand. Und der Pfarr hat sich behessen lezeh gefordert, a ganze Seder von Achonis zu Matan Torah. And therefore, there's all the days preparing to Matan Torah, or you're really starting from when Yidden left Mitzrayim, there's levels in an organized manner to go from level to level to prepare to receive the Torah, in order to not just get Torah with a pure self-nullification, but then to take the Torah in the person's existence of who he is and with what he prepared for this, to learn and study and understand. The Kavan of a Matan Torah is, the ultimate purpose of Hashem giving the Torah is, as that Adam soll sich vereinigen mit Torah, that the person, for who he is, should be unified with the Torah. This, as das soll werden sein Chayes und Metzias, to the point that the Torah becomes his life and his entire entity. Und darüber muss Torah genommen werden euch durch Limud, Asage, V'Havanas HaSeichel. And therefore the way we connect to Torah is also through studying, understanding, and connecting with the Torah intellectually. B'shas me versteht den Inyan b'Seichel, because when one understands something logically and intellectually, wird der Muskel nitves in dem Seichel Adam, so the idea becomes completely one and unified with the person's intellect, it becomes part of who he is. Like it is with food physically, when one eats, the food is digested and becomes part of the flesh and blood of his body. So similar spiritually, the ideas that one understands thoroughly becomes part of who he is. And as the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, es wird a yichud nifla zwischen und von dem Maskel mit dem Muskel. That there's a wondrous union that is formed between and through the idea and the seichel, the intellect of the person, to become completely unified as one. So it's in seichel. Only when one can learn and study and understand, when the entity of the person, becomes completely unified with the Torah. Kommt es, als durch Hasagas HaTorah nimmt jeder rein und wird nisached und nisjached mit dem Dvar Havaya. Was ist Hecher von Eilen Legamri. So therefore, only when one learns and understands Torah, that's when one takes in and becomes completely unified and one with the word of Hashem that's in Torah, that's above any limitations of the existence of the world. So now we can understand, und das seine gewähnt, die zwei Suge Hachone von Jeden zu Kabbalas HaTorah. So therefore, there are two different categories in the preparation of Yidden to receive the Torah. The erste Hachane zu Matan Torah is Kanal, Vayichen Sham Yisrael Kishechad Belev Echad. The first preparation for Matan Torah, as mentioned, is Yidden camping as one man with one heart, which is Tachlis HaBittel. This represents the absolute and complete self-nullification. Was peilt as alle Yidden sollen sein ki ish echad belev echad. Therefore, the result is that all Yidden are as one man with one heart. The klal is the gehachane von Klal Yisrael keechad. This is the general preparation, where all Yidden are unified as one entity, one to receive the Torah. But then from Sheni b'Sivan, when it comes to the second day in Sivan, is Hischol Moshe lehis asik imaim be'inyin Kabbalas HaTorah. Here, Moshe Rabbeinu comes down to pay attention to who the Yidden are in their entity, that they should receive the Torah. Was the midvert gemeint, the inyane hachane valchatun oif. Here, from the second day of Sivan, what Moshe Rabbeinu is now dealing with is preparing Yidden in such matters that will prepare them as the Mitzias Adam, that now the entity of who the person is, not only in that very deep and high removed level of the Yechide, which is in the depths of the heart. So should also be open and a vessel deserving to receive the Torah. And that's Vatan Til Mamlachas Kaina. The Yidden will be a nation of kingly priests. Mitzvahs Hagbalo Prishacholo. This is to separate from the mountain, separate from one's wife. These are all steps to bring sanctity within the life of the Yidden. And in Diachanis, it's in these preparations, here there are levels. Everybody accordingly on his level is preparing. Everyone on their level that they are in when they serve Hashem. To the point that we find as by Kabbalas HaTorah Atzma, that at the time when Hashem gives the Torah and Yidden are receiving the Torah, there are differences in the levels where Yidden are standing to receive the Torah. Moshe is in a place for himself, and then Aaron, and then the 70 Zakanim, and then the Yidden. But by Alamin, however, even at that time when there is a division in levels, on the other hand though, is by all Yidden is given Parcha Nishmasan on Al Kol Dibur V'Dibur. On each one of the Aseres HaDibris, they all experience the same level of self-nullification when their soul flew out of their body from the great intensity of the revelation that happened. So these are the two categories of preparation of Yidden for Matan Torah. So now we come back to a deeper understanding of what the Gemara means when it says that because Yidden were so exhausted, what does this mean? Und da sagt die Gemara that Moshe Rabbeinu said nothing to the Yidden because of their weakness and exhaustion from the way. The Orche, Haliche Ruchnis. So the Orche, as explained before, we're speaking about the spiritual travel. As alle Yidden, von Moshe Rabbeinu bis the Pasha B'Pshutim Sheb Yisrael, that all Yidden as one and equally from Moshe Rabbeinu to the simplest of Yidden. Sollen es achet werden, they should all become unified as one, is verbunden mit Cholshe, Lemal Yuseh. This is connected to and it expresses a weakness in the positive sense, which means a chalishus ubittel in Yidden. This is the preparation of Matan Torah, where the entity of who the individual is becomes completely nullified, and therefore this is expressing the real deep bittel that Yidden have. And it's this moment of preparation of Matan Torah, which is all about complete self-nullification, le'amaluhu v'lei midi. Moshe Rabbeinu says nothing to the Yidden, because diachane is nit verbunden mit amira. This preparation, Yidden are not interrupting or stopping their preparation. This is one of the greatest steps of preparation. But this preparation does not demand anything to be said. No, das ist ein Inyan von lo yamar shtika ubittel. On the contrary, this preparation is by the fact that there's quietness and there's absolute nullification to connect to Hashem, where all Yidden are the same. And then, following this, after Yidden reach this level of self-nullification where all Yidden are one man with one heart, now it's the mandate of all Yidden to come down and carry it down, this very intense level of self-nullification, and now to be occupied with other matters of preparing for Matan Torah and bringing it down to the individual on his level. Because it's only then that the whole purpose of Matan Torah will be fulfilled, the yichud nifla, to be completely and with the unified with the wondrous union, zusammen mit oisi, with Hashem Himself, as the lashon of the Medrash, oisi atem leichem. When one learns Torah, he takes and he connects to Hashem Himself.